So, as part of Mental Health Awareness Week, I'm pleased to be joined today by Portsmouth forward John Marquis. John, thanks very much for joining us today. First of all, how are you and how are you finding things?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's been good. Been sort of trying to stay as busy as I can, I think, which obviously will help. Obviously got two young kids, which do keep me very busy. A lot of my time that I've been at home, I've been spent with them, which is a nice change to obviously having lots of games and a busy training regime and away games and travelling overnight. So it's been nice to spend a lot more time with them. And yeah, the main thing, just really keeping busy and keeping ticking over.
And are you in touch with the players and the managers regularly? And if so, how are you keeping in touch with them?
Yeah, obviously we've been in touch. We've got individual training plans that we've all been sent to do, which are being monitored by the sports science people. So we're all in a group chat anyway, and we all keep in contact through that. And yeah, just sort of making sure that we're all training right and doing the right things. And we also done a little bit for the Portsmouth in the community, where a few lads dropped off some food packages for the local supporters, which we all donated into as players. So we was obviously in contact during that to sort that out as well. So we've been keeping in contact quite a lot, to be honest, and yeah, making sure we're ready to go if the season continues.
I was going to say, has the manager and the fitness coaches, have they been keeping tabs on you throughout the lockdown period, or have you been given some time off to relax and recharge? Because that's important as well, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously it's important, to have that little break. To be honest, we haven't had too much of a break. Sort of at the start, we ticked over initially for the first couple of weeks when we sort of didn't know the extent of what would be happening. And then we sort of had a little break in the middle where we slowed it down a little bit to as you say, recharge a little bit, not burn yourselves out too much. But as it's getting closer to making a decision on what will be happening with sort of the last 2-3 weeks, we've started doing a bit more individual work, a bit more ball work when you can do it. So the manager's been in contact with us quite a lot. He's been ringing around the boys quite regularly. So we spoke to him, and obviously the sports scientist as well, who's been tracking our stuff on the Strava app. So he's seen who's doing it and who's not. So they've kept on top of us.
And we've spoken to a few people over the past few weeks. Everyone's trying different things, doing different things to try and keep busy. Is there anything that you've done that you maybe haven't done for a very long time, or anything that you've taken up, anything new that you've started now that you've got a bit more time on your hands?
Yeah, I'm quite a person who likes a solid routine. So when my routine gets knocked out of sync a little bit, it throws me off a little bit. So what I've done is just started a sort of habit tracker, which my friend I sort of copied off at Swindon, Danny Rose. So sort of just making sure that I'm still getting up and setting an alarm, which even with kids, they're sometimes up before my alarm even goes off. But making sure that I'm not, lazing around too much, making sure I'm still going to bed at a normal time. Just basic things that you would probably do in the day anyway, which is like drink enough water and stuff like that. Just staying on top of basic sort of little habits, making sure I read. I've read a little bit more than I probably used to. I tend to only really read when I'm on holiday and maybe on an away trip. If my roommate's a bit boring, I might read a little bit before bed. But no, so just little things really, just to sort of keep my mind sharp. I think if there's too much sitting around and pondering over things, that's when your mind can run away a little bit. But as I say, with two kids, keeping them busy, keeping them entertained, going on countryside walks and stuff like that, that's kept them busy and happy. And then just little bits for myself to keep myself, as I say, sharp in the mind.
It's obviously a difficult time for everyone at the moment. you're so used to having a set routine, you're used to being on the road, you're used to playing football competitively, you know, once or twice a week, and the training and so on. You did mention routine there being important to you, but how have you personally managed your own mental health during this period? Is it making sure that you still have a set routine every day?
Yeah, I think that's a big part that's definitely helped. I've still had days where, you know, I've been anxious or I've been a bit down about the situation. I've not seen my mum for sort of the whole time, which I found quite difficult. But you know, I make time to make sure I FaceTime her every day, because obviously I used to see her a lot more often than I did, or I have been at the moment. And yeah, I think main thing is routine, trying to stay busy. As I say, sort of knowing about, is the season going to continue? Is it not going to continue? How is it going to continue? I think every time that I've sort of sat down and for more than 5 minutes and let my mind start thinking about it, or if I've read something of this may be the possible situation, I think as soon as you sit down and you start flicking through much to the internet, looking at things that may or may not happen, that's when your mind can run away. And I've sort of learnt now to, you know, think about the now and think about the future, because what's happened now has happened already in the past, and we can't affect that. But what we can do is make sure that we're ready for sort of now and what will be moving on in the future.
Do you think it's sometimes harder being in the spotlight as well? Like, for example, if you're a new player who's just signed for a new club, similar to you at the start of the season, I guess, moving to Portsmouth, as a new player, do you feel there's more pressure on you, and does that make it harder?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, it obviously all depends on how it comes around. So for myself, a little bit this season, I sort of went to Portsmouth for a fee, which was quite a large fee for the division that we're in. So obviously, what I've also done in the sort of past 3 or 4 years, you add a little bit of pressure to yourself. Your standards have gone up. Your expectation levels go up, personally and from people looking from the outside in. As I've said a couple of times before, you know, I've scored a lot of goals over the last 3 seasons, and it is hard to maintain them levels, and you have to be very driven to maintain them levels. And if you don't hit them sort of levels and expectations of yourself, then people will start asking questions, which does, as I say, come with a pressure and can play on your mind. But for myself, I always believe that I back my own ability. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not so good at. And I try to work on all of them aspects to just better myself for the next day and keep improving, because you can't sort of sit back on what you've done. You can just only move forward and try and improve. There'll always be someone that dislikes you. There'll always be a group of people that really like you. And you've got to try ignore the ones that dislike you and thrive with the people that do like you. But as you said, going back to playing on your mind, it can, because the pressures of it, whether you're playing in the first team or you're playing in the under 18s, you're playing for a contract. If you're in the under 18s, you know, you're in the first team, you want your team to be successful. You want to be aiming for promotion. You want to be at the top end of the season. The top end of the table come the end of the season. You don't want to be fighting relegation. If you're in a relegation scrap, the pressure that's there with that as well. There is pressures, but in the grand scheme of things, it's quite small pressures, and it's just the way that you manage them, because there's people out there that have got much bigger issues. You know, be it financially, be it losing someone close to them. All of the people's situations. There's lots of people that have different situations, and some of them are much larger than others. But it's just finding a way that works for yourself to deal with them. Some people relish under pressure. Some people cave in a little bit under pressure. So it's just the way that works for you and how you feel that you can get the best out of yourself whilst feeling good about yourself. So ultimately you can perform better, whether that's as a professional footballer, if you work in an office, if you, you know, sell cars, whatever it may be, you want to make sure that you feel good about yourself and you feel confident about yourself so that you can perform to the highest ability in your profession.
I was going to say that's one of the things that's probably come out most when with all the people we've spoken to, is that yes, everyone has different pressures, everyone has different jobs and feels different stresses in their life, but also everyone deals with things in a very different way. There's no right or wrong way, is there, to deal with pressure or any mental health issue?
No, as you say, every single person will be different. You've just got to figure out which way suits you best. As I said, some people can be very open and say, I'm not happy about this, and they voice it. Some people bottle it up until it's almost too late and then will have an outburst of, you know, rage. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's, you know, I don't know what way will work for someone else. That way might not work for me. And that's why I keep saying is that you've just got to find out what works for you and what helps you keep your mind as healthy as you can, so that you can, as I say, enjoy your life, enjoy the people around you, your close friends and family, and you can enjoy going into work and doing your profession and walking around with a smile on your face and not the world on your shoulders, because you know, you may have a problem and you may be walking down the road and you could see someone who looks as happy as anything, and their problem could be humongous compared to yours and you'd never know, but they may just deal with it in a different way. So you kind of just got to look at what you have and enjoy what you have and how you can improve that, and how is the best way to do that by keeping yourself, you know, mentally strong, and in whatever way, by speaking or by dealing with it in your own way.
As I'm sure you're aware, it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week. You recently did something quite special for a Portsmouth fan called George, who last week sadly tried to take his own life. For those of us that don't know the story, can you just share with us what happened there?
I was just at home and I got a message through to my phone from on my Twitter account. It was someone trying to spread the word that George had put a message on the internet about trying to take his own life. Immediately, obviously, it concerned me because, you know, it was brought to my attention, and I thought if there was any way that I could sort of help and intervene, you know, it would be helpful, because there's, you know, enough people losing their lives at the moment. You don't need people with, you know, mental health issues as well, taking themselves to the edge. So I messaged George. I replied to the message and said if anyone, you know, George's friends or family could let me know that George is okay, or try to get in contact with him as soon as you can, because obviously he's from Portsmouth. He's a Portsmouth fan, and obviously playing for them, I was hopefully able to raise enough awareness in a shorter space of time than possibly the person that actually sent me the message could do. Later on that evening, I got a message through George's Twitter account, but it was his mum. Said that George was okay, that he'd been taken to hospital, and that he'd be staying in overnight and being monitored and stuff. And I sort of said to her, and I said in my first tweet that, you know, if and when George is up to it, you know, if he wants to have a chat with me and get some things off his chest, and to share sort of some of his problems that he may have, I said I'm here to listen and I'm here to help in any way that I can. And so George was let out of hospital the next day, and he went home, and he felt well enough to speak to me on the phone. So I gave him a phone call, and we was on the phone for sort of 45 minutes, an hour. And I sort of said to George, I said, look, I'm not trained in this, but, you know, I want to help you in any way that I can. And if it's just by listening, I just want you to tell me what sort of, you know, what's taking you to this point. And he opened up to me and told me a lot of things that has happened, and which had taken him to that point. And then I sort of just told him a few bits about myself as well, which times where I've felt, you know, anxious, or I felt upset in the past, and how I've challenged that and how I've changed that, turning negative energy into positive energy. and just little tips that I do to keep me sharp in my head and keep me feeling happy and well about myself. And he's taken a lot of it on board. He's done really well. I've spoke to him every day since, and he's in a lot better place than he was this time last week. And he spoke on the radio. He's done bits in the newspaper, so he's opening up to more and more people. And as he said to me, it just feels like by talking more, it's the massive weight has been taken off his shoulders. And I sort of can't reiterate the point of a problem shared is a problem halved. And by just opening up and speaking to someone and telling them how you feel, it can help a lot. And one of George's things was, as a man, he feels like he couldn't show weakness, he couldn't show emotion, and he was meant to be macho and not allowed to be upset. And as men, a lot of men do feel like that. But as I say, by him opening up, he feels so much better about himself, and he's now gone to a point where a week ago he couldn't really help himself, and now he's helping other people, and he's been able to change it around massively. And he'll be able to move on with his life, hopefully positively, and this be a memory that he thinks about and thinks, I can't believe I was so close to doing it. And he's going to hopefully change his own life and change a lot of people's lives around him, because by opening up and talking, it's helped him. And then I believe now he'll be moving on to being a listener and listening to people's problems and helping them people. And hopefully it can be a snowball effect, because, as I said, the more you talk, the more you open up, I feel you'll be better within yourself, and your pressures won't feel as much on your own self.
Just want to go back to something that you said a moment ago. I'm almost certain that you'll say that you only did what anyone else would have done, but the fact is, many people will have seen the tweets from George and maybe not known what to do or how to help, so they might have done nothing. The fact is that you didn't. You took the time to get in touch with him. What was it that motivated you to do that? Because, as you said, you're not a trained professional in mental health, but something clearly triggered in you to say, I've got to do something.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was the fact that I saw it. I couldn't not act upon it. If I looked the next day and I'd seen that George had taken his own life later on that evening, and I'd seen it and not acted upon it, it would have been tough for me to think, what more could I have done? And at the time, I just felt like, he even said himself, he tried to take an overdose and his phone was going off and he couldn't even respond to his phone. But when I replied, I was hoping somehow, some way that he, hadn't have gone to that point yet, and that he would have seen it and it would have maybe triggered something to change his mind. And luckily enough, I can speak to George now, and but it might not have been that way, and if I didn't do it and something had happened to him, I would have felt a bit of pain within inside me that I didn't act upon it. So I sort of just went with how I felt at the time, and if I hadn't seen it or it hadn't been brought to my attention, it wouldn't have been the same sort of feelings. But because I'd seen it, I'd known that I had to act upon it, and I'm glad that I have. As I say, I think a lot of people possibly would have, the amount of response and positive feedback he's had, and obviously a lot of people were sort of commenting about when that sort of message came out, and loads of people have been messaging him. He's been telling me he's had sort of 600-700 messages coming through and he can't even read them all, and he's saying, I've had so much positive feedback afterwards, and he was like, I just can't believe I was trying to take my own life. And that's why I sort of said to him, I said, there's so many people that will just listen. And that's the main thing, is when you are in a position where you feel like the world's on top of your shoulders, sometimes all you need is just an ear to listen to what you want to say instead of bottling it up. George used a great phrase. When he went and saw a counsellor before all of this had happened, he said, your emotions are sometimes like a bottle. If you keep shaking it and shaking it, Coke bottle inside, it's just going to keep fizzing up, and then eventually when you open it, it's all just going to explode out at once. And he said, so if you've got them emotions inside and they're still shaking you up and shaking you up every day, eventually it's all just going to come out at once, and it's going to, the outcome would possibly be a lot worse than if you shook it up and then opened it a little bit and let someone listen to your problem. And that stuck with me a little bit when he said that, because it makes so much sense, and it's such a great way to explain it. And as I say, just by talking and letting people listen will help so many people. And I don't want people to feel embarrassed, because you shouldn't feel embarrassed if you've got issues. As I said, every single person in the world's got some sort of problem that they wish they didn't have. So that if for anyone that's listening, if you've got a problem, don't feel embarrassed by it, no matter how big or how small it is. It could be anything. You can open up, you can talk to people. There is people that will listen. There is people that will help you. There is people that will give you advice. And you don't have to be in it alone, because there's so many people that have been through this already that are now trying to help people that are in bad situations. And the best you can do is open up and be honest and let them emotions out, because there is people that will help.
And does it just go to show really that you don't always have to have the answers, just offering someone that chance to talk and for you to offer, an ear to listen? You don't have to have the right answers, do you? It's just about talking.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I'm not trained in this field whatsoever. And my idea of just having a phone call with George was that to George, I'm the team he supports, one of their players, and I may make a small difference, I may make a big difference. I've ended up making quite a big difference, which I didn't expect. But, it could have just been, I'm going to speak to John on the phone, and to George, that's obviously helped him. But for other people who aren't professional athletes or who aren't, just to be able to speak to anyone will help you so much. And I can't just keep saying it enough. I could just feel like I'm repeating myself, but just by speaking up and being honest with your feelings will help you so much. And there's so many people that can help.
It's clearly quite a tough time at the moment. A lot of people are struggling with changes in their day-to-day life. So many people in particular are missing things like the football that they're so passionate about. What advice would you give to someone out there who might be struggling at the moment?
Yeah, as you said, a lot of people, use, football as their release on the weekend, or going to the gym, or seeing their friends and going to the pub, or whatever it may be. A lot of people have different types of ways to release their energy, sort of thing. But I'd sort of just say, find something that keeps you happy. Find something that keeps you busy. You may live by yourself, or you may live with family, whatever it may be. Find time for yourself. Invest time in yourself. Whether it's reading, whether it's just going out for a walk, whether it's starting a new hobby. This is a time where everything is so up in the air and uncertain at the moment, where unfortunately a lot of people will either be not working or will be furloughed, or whatever their position may be. Use this time, I'd say, to invest some time in yourself and learn more about yourself, because at the end of the day, you are the one that control what you want to do. And people will find it in different ways. As I say, some people might want to read or look at a new business venture or whatever they may want to do. And you've got some people that may never get off the sofa and have never done a run before and want to start running. Whatever it is, set yourself a new challenge and learn more about yourself and see how far you can push yourself, because it will make you very strong, not only physically but mentally.